Okay, so student housing's bad, right? Student housing's totally bad. So what do? You can't reduce immigration. That's verboten. You can't say that in Canadian politics these days. Oh my gosh, reduce immigration. You're out of the Liberal caucus. Out of the caucus. You're out of everything. You can't even sit independent. Like, get out, Randy Hillier, right? You want to reduce immigration. So you can't talk about that. So how do you address student housing? Well, you give loans to universities, obviously. Yeah, you give loans to universities to build housing for the students because when you're Ukraine, Canada gives you money for free. But when you are a university in Canada serving foreign students, you get a loan. A loan. It's unbelievable. It's predatory. Why do we give foreign countries free money with no expectation of repayment? And Canadian citizens, here's a loan. I hope your business doesn't fail because we want the repayment of this loan. Why would we give you a loan that we didn't think you'd be able to repay? We have faith in you. Repay your loan, right? And it's crazy. But Ukraine, Slava Ukraine, right? Any amount is okay. The Canadian public, the Canadian people will work for it and give you free money, Ukraine. So why does that happen? That's really strange. We'll talk about that. But first, we got to start at crime and punishment. Here is Mocha, and he's sharing the story of James Sowery. No, excuse me, not Sean. This is not one of the Coots Four. This is a different person. This is a different situation, because he's been given charges. He was arrested and released. I'll let him explain it. He went for a jury trial, and his sentencing was yesterday, the 20th? I think yesterday. I saw this yesterday. It was posted January 28th, so apologies that I'm a bit late on this. But anyway, this is the story. I think it's absolutely abhorrent. I think it's absolutely terrible what's going on because of how heavy-handed the courts seem to be at this point in time. And when you compare it to, hold on a second, how porous our courts have been open, basically, the whole judicial system is just in disarray, in my opinion. Here's a report from December 18th, 2023. So this is not that long ago. Violent sex offender David Hay, known to prey on girls, released in Edmonton, re-released in Edmonton. Edmonton police issued a warning about Hay, a convicted violent sexual offender with a history of harming girls, who has been released from jail and is living in the city. So BUAC says, remember, you can violently rape adolescent girls over and over and get out of jail in a few months. But if you hit a traffic cone, it's mandatory 10 months. So here is James's story, and it's jaw-dropping. It makes me sad to be under the boot heel of this corrupt regime. Here's the story.
Not make my way down to Coots. As many as you know, I have conditions that state I can't protest or convoy. I was arrested for going through a check stop where I hit a pylon. They're saying I swerved to hit a police officer, which is not the case. There's a lack of evidence in the trial. Went with a jury trial. That was a huge mistake. So from here now, I have a sentence date on January 29th, which is this Monday. So yeah, when I got arrested, they released me after 8 hours due to an undertaking, and they slapped some pretty harsh conditions on me. I haven't had a license for almost 2 years now. It's been difficult. I live on a farm. I haven't been able to work because no license. I've managed to do local jobs here and there, from neighbors and stuff that need renovations done, to just working and building projects and stuff on the farm there and trying to sell them. So.
How is your morale compared to last year, compared to last few months?
Well, my morale, obviously I'm stressed. I'm in a down point. But look at the big picture here, what's going on down in Texas. What's going on overseas, France, Germany, so on and so forth. We've seen
referring to the farmers protests.
Yeah, the farmers protests, and everything going on around the world. People are starting to wake up, stand up, and I know that it was Canada that started that, so I'm very proud. I'm going to stay strong. It's for my kids.
Would you say your prosecution is politically motivated?
Absolutely political. When I went to Milk River, I took a load of firewood down because they put on a fire ban. And when I unloaded it in front of the officers, it was definitely, I was targeted right from there. I believe everybody that was arrested, whether it's Ottawa, Ambassador Bridge, BC, Coots, Milk River, it's all political.
I agree with him, Because again, if you are sexually assaulting children, you're out on bail. If you're shooting up birthday parties, we'll see you later. Like, oh man, we can't possibly keep you. That's violating your rights, sir. If you run into during all of these protests, there was a protester who drove into the Canadian patriotic protesters. That person let out on recognizance, right? Here is Mocha again, breaking news. So the 29th was the sentencing hearing. And breaking news, James Sowery has been sentenced to 10 months in prison. He was escorted by the sheriffs as tears dropped from his eyes and the crowd erupted in disappointment of the decision. People are now leaving the courtroom in tears. So yeah, that's hard. Without Papers Pizza is responding to Mocha. A Canadian family man with no prior criminal conviction has been sentenced to 10 months in jail for hitting a traffic cone. The officer at the scene claimed his life was threatened by the incident. The RCMP are a weapon of the Canadian government. The courts enforce the ideology. So yeah, pretty scary stuff. And Mark Friesen is weighing in on this as well. He says the corruption within our justice system is out of control. Excuse me. How in God's name can you charge someone for running over a pylon? The pathetic cop was in fear for his life. Give me a break. What kind of cop are you? This country is beyond broken. The cops are corrupt. The justice system is corrupt. The governments are corrupt. We need to end this poop. Yeah. And again, I'll just highlight that in our court system, a family man who runs over a pylon and just wants to get back to his life is put in jail for 10 months for nothing. And violent sex offender is let out on the streets to reoffend, and the police are warning of this. Anita Anand has been in the government, a minister of various important files for years. And she says, me and all my friends, everybody I know has had their car stolen, break and enters in Oakville. Oakville was known as like the rich part of the GTA, kind of, sort of. Like if you lived in Milton and Halton area, Oakville was, that was a lot of money, right? Rich. And Toronto even as well. Like if you could afford it, you were living in Oakville. And unless you were in an old Toronto neighborhood or something like that, right? So Anita Anand articulating what she's saying here, unbelievable, jaw dropping, because you're in the government. You created this. This was not the case when Stephen Harper was in charge. And so the crime and the increase and the unbelievable, unforgivable reduction in public safety and public order, et cetera, that has happened under these liberals is jaw-dropping. And these people are so blind to what they've created in this country with their bullshit crap policies. Here's Anita Anand.
I come from Oakville, Ontario, represent that riding, and I can tell you that everyone I know has had their vehicle stolen or has a friend who has had their vehicle stolen. And these vehicles being stolen also include break and enters, and crime is a very serious concern. I come from Oakville, Ontario.
Yeah. Why doesn't her government do anything about it? Why does the government put innocent men or people who drive over a pylon in jail for 10 months and, let the violent criminals out because, that would infringe on their rights or whatever? Here is the way that this all works, that global governance works, is there's a mafia enforcement arm. And if you get into government and you aren't who they thought you were, so you are able to play the game well enough, and then when you get in government, you're like, F you, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Here's what happened to the Pakistani former Prime Minister, Imran Khan, and he's sentenced to 10 years in prison. And Not John Bolton says the only reason this is happening to him was because he wanted to trade with Russia and maintain a neutral position. He was deposed by America. Right? You don't do what you're told. Well, sorry, buddy. Prime Minister or not, right? Like, get out. And so there's a lot of very concerning things happening all around the world. And from local situations to people who are being targeted with bullshit trumped up charges, to letting people who should be in jail out of jail, to further afield where we're seeing prime ministers jailed for just wanting to trade with Russia. Is that so bad, right? Oh my gosh, Putin, you Putin apologist. Peter Sweden, let's move on to talk about international farming and the current civil war that's shaping up in Europe, as well as the civil war that's shaping up in the United States. We'll talk about the US later, but I think it's interesting as well, like the Babylon Bee posted, Joe Biden is starting another international war, like another hot kinetic international war somewhere else to distract from the civil war he started in America. And I thought, yep, yeah, they nailed it again. Okay, Peter Sweden, let's talk about the farmers and all of the support they're getting in Europe. And Peter Sweden reports countries that have now joined the farmers' protests: the Netherlands, Scotland, Germany, France, Poland, Belgium, Lithuania, Romania, Greece, and Italy. Greece, I'd like to see footage of the Greek stuff. All of Europe is saying no to the climate agenda. And so that's interesting. I think that it's interesting. I can't verify every single one of these, but I've seen video footage from Scotland, from Germany, from France, a lot from France. France has got their phones out and they are PO'd. Poland, I've seen video from. Belgium, I've seen video from. Lithuania, I haven't. Romania, I haven't. Greece, I haven't. Italy, I have. So some are verified, but that's a lot of countries. People are angry. Adnan says the globalist plan to control and enslave humanity is in tatters thanks to the farmers. Humanity salutes and supports you. Anti-WEF says farmers universally reject UN global citizen agenda. No farmers, no food. And I think this is France. I have a feeling this is going to be loud. No, it's not. They're not honking. So it is an entire street. I think it's France. Although I really can't tell. So apologies. If there's something that's, let us know in the comments if you can verify where this is. I think France, but still, it could be Germany, I guess too. There's a whole street completely blocked by farmers, right? Tractors galore everywhere. Vigilant Fox says, holy cow, the farmers are not messing around. This is Augsburg, Germany. Today marks the third consecutive day of blockades and convoys in protest of crippling tax hikes on diesel. In a recent development, German railway employees had commenced a 3-day strike demanding higher wages and paralyzing rail traffic. It seems everyone's fed up with the government. So yeah, this is happening everywhere. And you want to make us eat bugs? We will bring your entire civilization to a crashing halt. And so it's not good because, again, if you think of my analogy of the matador and the bull looks like it's tearing shit up, right? The matador's in control. The matador's standing there and he's got his sword and he's got his red cape and the bull's like running around, being crazy and stuff. And the matador at the end will just stab the bull and bow to the crowd. And it's, here's the farmers. I like the protest. I just want them, there has to be a so what. If Macron or if Stolz, the German chancellor, ignores this, what then, right? If the army comes in, what then? And instead of being reactionary, what do we do if he doesn't do this? They need to be proactive, right? They need to say, you have until midnight to resign, or we are activating this resolution, taking control of the government, or we're activating this resolution and having a national election. But is that realistic? Do you think that's realistic? Do you think that if the farmers said, you're done by this date, you're done. If you don't have your resignation, we are going to make you resign, and then we are going to replace the government with an election and so on. Do you think that's plausible, something that they could do? Or would they say, oh, it's an insurrection, they're trying to overthrow the government, even though this government, all of the governments, from France's government, Macron, to all of them, to the Chancellor of Germany, to all of them, are not working for the people. And that's the agreement the government made. They're supposed to be working for the people, but they aren't. They're working for globalists, Bloomberg, United Nations, WHO, and the rest. The Global Compact for Migration is a UN thing that we are now suffering under because we have tent cities and we can't stop it seemingly. But we can stop it. We have laws on the... If I went and put up a tent in front of Cam Guthrie's office, the tent would be gone and they'd say, that's very bad, Mark. We shouldn't do that. And you point at the one downtown by the fountain and they say, well, that's different. Not. Anyway, here's the farmers. I fully support them. I just want them to be strong and to take the lead in this dance. Yesterday, I talked about how Trudeau's still leading the dance. The Matador is still in charge. I want them to take the lead. I want them to be the Matador. I want Macron to be the bull who's out of control. And I don't think the farmers are out of control, but that's just the analogy, right? They're out of control compared to the people who are insulated and who are just ignoring this, and then who will say, this is an insurrection, this is terrorism. Because once it gets to a certain point, they can make that case to the public who aren't there, right? And so if the truckers aren't leading the dance, then eventually they're gonna get slapped by the Emergency Act or the German or the French version of that. They need to be leading the dance. I think the French are leading the dance more. Paris is under siege. The highways going in and out of Paris, carved up, although inconveniently carved up, right? Like not totally blocked as far as I understand it, strategically blocked so that you could get through, but it's just a giant pain in the ass. So Here's Peter Sweden again. The French farmers are now removing EU flags in protest. What does that say? We are going to take your government away, and we are going to implement one of our own EU traders, right? That's what it says to me, right? But I don't speak French. Here we go.
Pourquoi vous avez ce drapeau? Expliquez-moi.
Pour toutes les normes que voilà, c'est l'Europe qui gère là, avec les nouvelles PAC et
I don't know what he's saying. So here's one of the motorways, but Nat says all the access motorways, 8 to Paris, are blocked by hundreds of tractors for an indefinite period. Farmers from various regions will arrive in the next few days to consolidate the blockade. How are the farmers going to arrive? I've arrived at the end of the blockade. You guys want to move over? So never mind. I'll just sit here. It's cool. I'm taking an alternate route to Paris, not the major highways. Don't worry. Jim Ferguson. Now, you got to take his stuff with a grain of salt. Take everything with a grain of salt. Like everything. Because I've seen one of the videos that he posted was an old video cut together to look like it was new. And he said, breaking news, Macron's government's going to fall and blah, blah, blah. So he's a little bit, he's got a little bit more color in his analysis than I do. I don't like predicting like things are going to break down, et cetera, et cetera. Even at this point, I think Macron and Scholz, all of them, I think they all think that they can just do what Trudeau did and this will all just go away. I really think that they believe that. And so they think that they're in charge and there isn't anything that they're panicked about or worried about because look what happened in Canada. It's fine, right? Nobody's going to go to war, right? Over this. They don't think. I don't know. So anyway, Jim Ferguson says, Macron's about to lose control of Paris as tensions rise with reports of 15,000 police being drafted to combat the protesters. Where are they from, those police? Right? Not from France, I bet. The French capital is currently under siege as thousands of farmers continue to arrive, supported by hundreds of thousands of French people in support. The globalists have been blaming the farmers internationally for being to blame for climate change using a fake narrative of net zero carbon and nitrogen reduction. The real reason for attacking the farmers is to corner the market on food supplies to force the nations into compliance, obey, or you don't eat. Yeah, and I think that that's accurate, even for a place like Canada. Here's a Welsh farmer. It's happening there too. And he says, please watch, No Farmers, No Food says, please watch this powerful commentary by a Welsh farmer, Stephen Evans, who's calling for more integrity from the supermarkets to ensure that farmers receive more financial reward for their produce or for their product. We need fair supermarket prices for our farmers. So these guys in England, particularly, they have to sell their eggs almost, I think it's at a loss, in order to maintain the contracts at the supermarkets, which doesn't make business sense, right? You can't continue to operate at a loss. So here's one of the Welsh farmers.
Evening, everybody. Just wanted to come on and share my views on the supply chain from the very wet, windy and cold West Wales. I don't want thanks for what I do. I chose this vocation, but what I do want is some fairness and equality within the supply chain in terms of economics, because at the moment, here's my cows, busy eating away, producing tomorrow's milk, which I'll sell again at a loss. And yeah, there are huge financial implications, not just for us as a family, but for the young employees we've got with us, who've got mortgages, who've got children, families to feed. And I, for one, am sick and tired of the trickle-down economics. I don't want consumers to be charged more. That's not fair. There's enough challenge within communities now. So, this is just about a bit of honesty and integrity from retailers on their pricing structures, not just for dairy, but for beef, lamb, pork, vegetables, fruit growers. This has to end. This absolutely has to end. And we're seeing things going on across Europe. It's been quite spectacular how that's come on. And I can't say I support everything that's going on, but the message is loud and clear. We're not going to be about, unless the economics change fast. Farmers are going to be leaving agriculture in their droves, because ultimately, if the economics don't add up, then we're gone. Simple as. So thank you for your time. get behind the campaign, no farmers, no food, and just keep an eye on things, and I just appreciate your time. But like I said, I don't want thanks. I just want fairness and equality within.
So I often say, if you have a business, you have operating costs, and the operating costs cover the business, right? And so if it costs you $3 to make a widget, you can sell the widget and like include your time and your operating costs and all the rest for $5 or $6, and that's 100% markup, so on and so forth. But if I buy this widget for $3 and I sell it for $2, why would I do that? Why would I do that? That's what the farmers are doing, right? It cost me $3 to put this widget together, and I'm going to give it to you for $2, and I have 3 of them, and that's it. And then I'm out of business. So you better get while the getting's good, right? But the milk, we need milk tomorrow, and we need milk next week, and we need milk next year, and they want it to be cricket milk. Have you seen how they make this? I think they get maggot, like, I don't know if it's cricket maggot, or cricket milk or maggot milk or what it's called, but I saw they had a spinning gyro machine thing, and they got these white maggot thingies, and they put them in the spinning spiral thing, and they turned it on, and then out came like a liquid, and they were like, look, it even looks like milk. I was like, I'm gonna vomit. Just the whole thing was gross. And then ultimately, I don't remember seeing anybody actually drink it, but they had to. It came out of the machine white, but they had to sift it because there were bits in it, and the whole thing is just off-putting. And I mean, like, the first person to drink milk, the first person was like, you see that thing? Yeah, I'm gonna drink that. It was probably like, I'm just kidding. It's probably been fine for a really long time. But the first person, I mean, like, somebody said, Dad, we drank that? And he was like, no, that's a bad idea. The whole world's crazy. Let's move on. Not really, but the last food farmer thing related is bringing it back to the US. And remember the epidemic of food plants blowing up and just like unexplained bad things happening to food plants, and then everybody would just move on like it wasn't happening, but it definitely is happening. Well, breaking news, a large explosion with a significant fire erupted at Feathercrest Farm chicken plant. And so currently numerous fire departments and firefighters along with other emergency personnel are on the scene to a reported explosion followed by a significant fire at the Feathercrest Farm chicken plant in Bryan, Texas. Black plumes of smoke and flames are visible for miles. It's currently unknown if anyone is injured or how the fire started, as this is still a developing situation. So that's not, great. Like, oh man, I eat those chickens, right? Like, I mean, I don't, but Texans do. And so when you remove a whole chicken plant, what's the impact on the whole supply chain of food? And how many of those chicken plants can you remove before chickens, I don't know, go up by 50% in cost, right? And then how many of those chicken plants before you can't supply the whole state anymore? And then how many chicken plants before people don't have ready-made chickens anymore? Because, that's so gauche. We can't do that. We can't process chickens like that. Are you kidding? That sounds really expensive, right? Because running a factory is too expensive. That's the plan. You just forget. And you adjust to the new way of life. And before you know it, you're living it, like 10 cities in your city, and you adjust to it. And there isn't any arguing because, look, these people are here. There's no argument here. What are we going to do? Put them on a plane? Yes. Put them on a plane and get them out of here. And take all the people who are in hotels and anybody who's illegal, get them out of here. And then remove the budgets from control from these globalist nut jobs who have control of the budgets. And let's fix this problem. Cut it out. Jordan Peterson says, let's move on from vaccines and MAID and the rest. I think that it's wild because on one side, these shots are being forced and the government is willing to go to war. The War Measures Act was enacted on the truckers to win the disagreement that the doctor is talking about. And on the other hand, Tony Blair says, oh, it was a treat. The technology advancement during COVID was wonderful and we can reimagine healthcare completely now. Scary. Let's talk about carbon. Let's talk about energy and how we make that. Dr. Peterson says, I think if we weren't hysterical, a strong case can now be made for the actual benefit of increased atmospheric CO2. Drill, baby, drill, says Jordan Peterson. I think the evidence now suggests that the change is positive and large environmentally and economically. So I guess I'm not just a climate denier anymore. I therefore believe that the climate apocalypse mongers are purveying an actual anti-truth. They're lying, he says. The greening data are of overwhelming significance compared to all counter consequences. Rapidly shrinking arid and semi-arid areas, higher crop yields, an area twice the size of the US has greened in the last few decades. A more thorough falsification of the doomsayers narrative could hardly be imagined. So the carbon thing is not happening. It's just not happening, period. Here is an exchange between two MPs, one of them being Chrystia Freeland, talking about axing the tax, and they don't ever get to it. They never actually answer the questions. There's back and forth. We'll probably listen to the question and the answer, the first one, but here we go.
Never before have we seen ignorance used as a political strategy the way this Liberal government uses it. It's shameful. At the end of the day, Canadians are struggling day in and day out to be able to heat their homes, to be able to put food on their tables, and to be able to care for their families. And the carbon tax only increases that cost more. And what do you know? On April 1st, the carbon tax is scheduled to go up yet again. This government is going to hike it again on April 1st. So what this government choose to put its feet into reality and to acknowledge the struggle that everyday Canadians face and show a little bit of compassion, scrap the tax, stop the increase.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
You know, Mr. Speaker, earlier today the Conservatives were talking about hypocrisy. And that is a subject they know a lot about. The poverty rate in Canada has been cut in half. And you know what they want to do next? They want to take carbon price rebate checks out of the bank accounts of Canadian families. That's $1,000 in Ontario, more than $1,000 in Alberta, Saskatchewan. That will hurt Canadians.
The Honourable Member from Lethbridge.
There's this government's false perception of reality, and then there's the reality that everyday Canadians are experiencing. I would invite the honourable member to consider what that reality actually is.
So there you go. The honourable member, Ms. Freeland, does not care about actual reality. She is committed to the narrative, and that's it. Here is almost 2 minutes of Freeland again talking about how the carbon tax is revenue neutral. We still have Chrystia Freeland to say, diversity is our strength in this show. Here
Jordan,
we go.
CTV.
Hi, my question's for Minister Freeland. There's a report this morning from the Toronto Star talking about how your government potentially wants to rebrand the carbon tax. What does that mean, just changing the name? And how do you think that will protect a policy that's becoming increasingly unpopular among Canadians? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I think it's important to start with the reality, and that is that the price on pollution returns more money to 8 out of 10 Canadians. And lower income Canadians are in that 8 out of 10 category. This is a policy which is revenue neutral. The money goes right back into the pockets of Canadians. In Ontario, a family of 4 this year is going to be getting close to $1,000 back through the price on pollution.
Not nearly enough. And the question was, you're supposedly rebranding the carbon tax. Why? Is it just a renaming thing or what? And she goes on a long diatribe about nothing. The Globe and Mail is reporting Ontario to announce a refurbishment of 4 reactor plants at Pickering. I think that Doug Ford and the people who are running things provincially are trying to make energy as expensive as possible. Refurbishing nuclear is a very expensive way to go about getting energy and electricity and expanding our grid potential. A quick way would be natural gas plants, right? And you can't build natural gas plants because of the climate zealots, but we need to, as Jordan Peterson said, drill, baby, drill. So I think that these people are insane, and we need to actually maintain our ability to have a modern society before the climate zealots completely destroy it. And the climate zealots, make no mistake, are in the government currently as well. Stephen Guilbeault is one of the first to come to mind, but there are many. Daily Courier is saying tiny homes arrive in Kelowna. Deployment of tiny homes for Kelowna homeless has begun. So you can see these boxes. They don't have any bathrooms or anything like that. I don't know where the bathroom is. I was looking for a porta potty, but I guess they didn't put that in the picture. The 60 structures, which measures 60 square feet in size, have been placed in the downtown North End along Crowley Avenue. They're near a long-established outdoor encampment. Great. You just put keys in the center and they all fight for it, or what? The units for Crowley Ave have been pre-assembled off-site and as of Monday are being installed on-site and connected to utilities. The Minister of Housing said in a statement, the construction of the project is proceeding on schedule and is expected to be completed in February with the tenanting process to follow. The statement says we will share more with the community as the opening date is confirmed. I worked in a children's mental health facility, and like people with mental health issues are very varied. There are all sorts of different mental health. Some people are quiet, some people are violent, some people get physically violent, some people do violence in different ways, so on and so forth. And we had one kid, and what he would do is he would just destroy his room, like to the point of if you left him in his room, he wasn't allowed to have a door. He had a curtain because if his door was closed, he ripped an entire piece, like the wall, the finished drywall. He made a hole in the wall, and then he ripped the whole wall down in pieces. Just nice and quiet, like you didn't hear him. It was quiet time. Like usually you have downtime in the afternoon, so kids were in their rooms supposedly playing. They weren't playing. I heard about it after the fact, but anyway, that kid wasn't playing. He was just destroying the property. He just destroyed it. Why? Kids are kids, right? Like I don't know. Why do they melt? I melted crayons. I'm not trying to get the kid in trouble. That's not the point. I melted crayons when I was a kid just to see what happened. I had an entire pack of crayons and I put them on. We had radiator heating in the basement and I put them all along the radiator. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. It's getting all liquidy. Look how cool it is. And then I think I went to the bathroom and I think I forgot about it and just left them all on there. And my mom came down. Words were had. It was all good. But people do crazy things like that. People do not, like, what's going to happen when somebody just, lights a cigarette and one of these goes up, or breaks a hole in the wall, or electrocutes themselves because they're accessing the electricity that comes into the unit. There's all sorts of crazy things that are going to happen. You can't just give somebody a home and say, your problem solved, buddy. Good luck. It's not going to happen. It doesn't work, right? And I mean, not everybody's a 6-year-old kid with crayons, but people, or a kid who likes breaking up drywall, but the whole thing just seems, that's not a solution. It is part of a solution, maybe, if you have a crap ton of money and no open borders. Maybe. We're real long today. Housing costs double, says Pierre Poilievre, because Trudeau built bureaucracy and not homes for 8 years. Our common sense plan does the opposite, he says. Signed to support build homes, not bureaucracy. Build homes, not bureaucracy. Act to bring homes you can afford. And Natasha Montreal says, what about mass immigration? Are you arguing that bringing 1.5 million foreigners into Canada a year has no effect on supply and demand? How many foreigners and in what capacity will you let into Canada and for how long? And Brett says that's exactly what he's arguing. Quote, first of all, immigrants are not the problem. Well, I'll let him say it.
And so the Trudeau government just announced a big new immigration target, right. 500,000 new immigrants a year, and that doesn't include student permits or foreign workers, temporary foreign workers. Do you think that sort of high target is in line with achieving affordable housing, or even things like access to healthcare?
Okay, well, first of all, I would say immigrants are not the problem in the housing market. We have more land in Canada where there's no one than we have land where there's any.
And so
right. And imagine how many of these 60-foot square units you could fit on all that land. Oh my gosh, right? Jeepers creepers. There's your porta potty. There you go. Here is Sean Fraser, and he is announcing that loans will be given to universities in order to fix the housing problem. You're welcome, universities. Here we go.
A place to live. Because when students don't have enough housing near campus, they have to go into the broader community to find a place to rent. And that drives up the cost of living for everybody. We're going to help fix that. We're going to do it by providing low-cost loans to colleges and universities so they can build more student residences. This isn't just going to help students find an affordable place to live next to the place where they go to school. It's going to help free up houses in the community for people who live there year-round. We're going to build more homes for students, for families, for everybody.
They created this problem by flooding the country with foreigners for years without a plan. And then when people started camping in tents in downtown cores, that's when the Liberals said, oh, you know what? Maybe we should build homes. Morons. I don't trust them. They're idiots. And everything they've done has harmed the country. They need to be thrown out and probably arrested. Here's another $1 million wasted, probably more. New additional stepping stone will see more room for transitional housing and emergency shelter beds in Guelph. So stepping stone is the place. But they're adding all these beds saying, oh, we're fixing housing. They're not fixing housing. They're flooding the country with illegals. Jagmeet Singh wants to have a debate on the whole thing. He says, I've requested an emergency debate in Parliament on the ongoing housing and homelessness crisis. Families are struggling to pay for their basic needs, including rent and mortgage payments. Immediate action must be taken to ensure everyone has safe, affordable housing. Jagmeet Singh needs to be removed as leader of the NDP, and the NDP need to trigger an election or something to that effect, because what's going on is not acceptable. And again, the NDP are arguing we have to build more houses. The Liberals and the Conservatives are not letting us build enough houses, not enough affordable houses, which is all weasel words and language manipulation. Maxime Bernier says, we're going from one immigration crisis to another with the Liberals. The next one is the rising number of fake Mexican asylum seekers who are in fact economic migrants, reimpose visitor visas and deport the fake refugees. So the editorial is Ottawa's next immigration emergency: Mexicans. I wonder if the cartels will get a foothold here, right? There are Indian gangs that are already demanding protection money in out west. And I've heard some in Ontario too, actually. The Vigilant Fox shares this. I thought this was interesting. He's talking here, Dr. David Martin, and he's like, I don't know what to make of this guy, because on one side of the things, he explains very clearly the illegality of BioNTech and the insider trading and all of the rest of it. He seems like he's genuine. He seems like he's really smart. He's got all this bling, like he's got like very, very big necklaces and huge rings and things like that. I mean, sure, like wear your wealth, that's fine. But the message he's pushing is really, really clear that what's happened is illegal and wrong. And here he's talking about how there's a mass conspiracy in order to achieve these goals. He was talking about 5G and how 5G was used by the Department of Defense, and it wasn't sufficient for their needs, and so they auctioned off the frequency on the spectrum. And so here's part of that. Links in the description. Here's just a bit of Dave Martin. Here we go.
I think the whole thing has been very well orchestrated to set a number of little breadcrumbs out there to allow anybody anywhere to go, it's this, it's that, it's something else. And all of them distract from the central problem. And the central problem is a colluding set of conspirators in both public sector and in industry, knew by 2015, and Peter Daszak, by the way, said it outright, we are going to get the public to understand the need for a medical countermeasure such as a pan-coronavirus vaccine. We need the media to create hype. We need to use that hype to our advantage to get to the real issues. Investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process. The media hype was a programmed hype. And during the entirety of COVID, what did we have? We had the breadcrumb of 5G. We had the breadcrumb of SARS-CoV-2. We had the breadcrumb of UFOs. We had the breadcrumb of transgender. We had the breadcrumb of men can have babies. We had the breadcrumb of BLM. Are you kidding? This was not some co-emergence of social issues that all came about randomly at the same time. This was a destruction of the public confidence narrative, which allowed everybody to jump on a bandwagon so that nobody talked about the real crime. And the real crime was something which in 2005 unambiguously stated that the synthetic coronavirus was going to be, and I quote, a biological warfare enabling technology. I don't know where the mystery is.
See, I watch that and I think to myself, I don't know where the mystery is either. So what the hell are we doing? Like, what? Like, they're trying to take our food. They're trying to kill us. They're trying to take our speech. They're trying to say, this is for your safety, comrade. And we're all sitting around going, do you think Taylor Swift is going to get married? New York. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful